Hi, Steve. Happy to be with you today. Thanks for joining me for this testimonial interview. And so I'll just go through a few questions. And if you want to add anything that's not on the list of questions, feel free to mention whatever feels right to you. So I'll start with the first question. It's pretty straightforward for people, watching us. If you could tell us a bit about your business and your Arcanys team composition.
Yeah, so BloomLocal, it's a new startup. We started a couple of years ago now. We basically solve a problem for florists, sort of small local florists. They find it very difficult to get onto the Google Ads platform and to make it work, which is where most people looking to send flowers go to. So we created with Arcanys basically a sales solution that enables them to sell their flowers online without having to take the risk or do all the complicated things of setting up a Google Ads account. Most florists have a website, but florists tend to be doing weddings, workshops, funerals, and so they have a website that's not totally geared up to sell bouquets easily on Google. When people go to Google and want to buy flowers, they want to do it in a couple of clicks. And a florist website is like a maze to try and navigate. So we created a different sales solution for florists. And yeah, we built the business on WordPress. So we sort of prototyped it with a WordPress solution, but that wasn't scalable. WordPress is lots of individual sites. And so when you've got hundreds of florists to work with, yeah, that's just not practical. So with Arcanys, we sort of developed a scalable solution, and Arcanys put together a team of 8 people to sort of build it. Took 6 months to build it, and now it's built. We're sort of developing it and improving it, and we have a team around 5 people, so who work pretty much on a full-time basis. Yeah, and it goes really good. It's a great team, and we meet up every sort of 2 weeks. We discuss as a team, but I have constant communication on a daily basis with the project coordinator and also with a sort of senior architect. So yeah, it goes very well. We're very, very pleased.
Okay, cool. Thanks. And so why did you pick Arcanys, and so what kind of problem we solved? You kind of mentioned from the passing from WordPress to something a bit more, I would say, sophisticated or automated maybe. But why did you pick us in the first place as a company?
I'd had my own experiences of building teams in-house, and that is hard. It's very time consuming. So I sort of wanted to outsource because that just was more practical on many levels to do. Obviously, I'd had some experience with Arcanys in the past, and I have a strong connection with the Philippines. So Arcanys is the leading software company, probably one of the best ones in the Philippines, with a good reputation, and particularly in Cebu, you're very well known, which is where sort of the operational part of BloomLocal is based. So yeah, so it was your reputation. I got to know you well, and yeah, and knowing the Philippines, it was clear that you're the company to go to.
Cool. So you mentioned how did it start and when? You mentioned that you've been running for about 2 years now, but you didn't start right away with Arcanys. We started a bit later, the collaboration, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, I've known Arcanys from previously, from business before. So I'd already done some work with another company. But yes, because it was sort of a startup, we didn't really have the funding to just go straight in and start building something. So we prototyped it with WordPress, just built a few websites, and there was a lot of research required, talking to customers. It took us some time to work out exactly what we needed to build, and WordPress was a better, cheaper way to get started. And after doing that for a couple of months, then went through it with Arcanys, and that's when, together with Alan and Eric and the team, started to plot, well, how do we make this scalable? With WordPress, it can take a week to build a site. If we've got 100 websites to build, taking 1 week each, that's a hell of a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we would need.
Yeah.
So it wasn't practical, really. So yeah, together with Arcanys, we sort of plotted how we would develop it, and it sort of did that for. I think we spent 1.5 months planning and thinking with Eric and Alan before we actually said, okay, this is what we need to build, and yeah, let's start building.
Cool.
So yeah, May, June was plotting, and then we got started in July.
And so, could you tell us about like how is your team doing so far?
Yeah, it's a great team. We know everyone, so we've got to know each other over the last sort of year. And I'm not directly involved. I mean, one of the nice things is that I don't have to get involved in the detail. So I see all the tickets going up and the sort of the Scrum way everyone's working, and I keep track of it. But so that gives me a bit of detail. But I work mostly with Jill, who's our project coordinator. And I kind of have a roadmap document, which is, I'm not a programmer. I'm not really I understand technology, but I'm not technical background, more from sales and operations. So I have my own roadmap, sort of word-based, sort of written out. And with Jill, we go through it, and then she sort of takes that and breaks it down into tickets for the wider team. And then, on every 2 weeks, we catch up with the team, and we have a meeting sort of for 2 hours, and we all give demos of things they're built, and then we discuss what we're going to build for the next 2 weeks, for the next sprint. So we're sort of working in 2 weekly sprints, with a roadmap that sort of looks 3 to 6 months ahead.
I think you also are working with Eric, who's our senior architect. Could you tell us a little bit, like what he helps you with and things like that? Because you don't have a CTO, right, on your end. So
no, well, I mean, Eric acts as our CTO, so I discuss the roadmap with Eric.
Okay.
So we kind of look at what we want to build and how we're going to build it. So I kind of have more ad hoc meetings with Eric. Usually he's available, whenever I have an idea, he's usually available pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so we will discuss things on the roadmap as to what we want to build, and he'll think about it, and then he'll feed that back into the team. So you kind of got Eric acting as a CTO, discussing things on a sort of top level.
Yeah.
He'll then discuss that with the team internally. And then during our sort of bi-weekly sessions, we'll discuss it with the 5 of us.
Okay.
So on a day-to-day level, in terms of feedback and functionality, we're dealing with Jill and testing, ensuring that it works. And if there's things not quite right, or the button's not in the wrong place, or we need to change that, then we deal with Jill. And sort of higher level roadmap, where we're going, I'm discussing that sort of on an ad hoc basis with Eric.
Yeah. And
it's a complete team. So
maybe it's a bit of a redundant question, but maybe there's another way for you to add something on top of what you said already. Is what does your Arcanys team allow you to do?
It just makes everything so more efficient. So I don't have to spend, we are a technology business. Technology we're building is fundamental to what we do. So it's not like I don't have to think about it, that I've spent half my time thinking about what we're building, but I am freed up half my time to focus on the other parts of the business, like the sales and the operations. And if I was trying to if I tried to build that Arcanys team in-house, I would be full-time just dealing with IT. I wouldn't be able to focus on other things, which are crucial to growing the business. So Arcanys team enable me to be free for at least 50% of my time, if not more, on running the business.
Okay, cool. And so in addition to, collaborating with us as, a team augmentation partner, as we discussed, Arcanys has invested work for equity through what we now call Arcanys Ventures. And so could you maybe explain a little bit what it has allowed you to do even more than just outsourcing your software development team with us?
Well, that was, I mean, I was very pleased. We would have had to have gone and raised investment separately if we, well, I discussed the project with Alan. If the investment opportunity wasn't there, I would have gone and raised investment separately to build the software. So we were having to raise funds anyway. And it was great that we could raise the funds through yourselves who are building the software, because I've raised funds for previous companies that I'd managed before. One of the biggest challenges is finding an investment partner who really understands what you do, particularly on a technological level. So to have an investment partner who fully understands what it is you do is it's fantastic. It makes it makes the investor meetings go so well. It also means the investor is invested in what's going on a deeper level than just financial. So yeah, Arcanys is a great strategic partner as well. So yeah, so it's great that Arcanys could invest as well as develop the software, and yeah, and it's helped us grow quicker, to be honest.
I think when we invest is to help, I mean, build new features faster or help you focus more of your cash really on maybe on marketing and sales, which I think is pretty capital intensive for BloomLocal. Mm. And going back to the team, you mentioned that you were doing, I mean, talking to them a bit more formally every 2 weeks, but you are chatting with them on a daily basis on the, I would say, the operations or the day-to-day stuff. Um, and you also mentioned that okay, the pandemic has changed a few things, I guess, but you were you coming to visit the team? I mean, physically every now and then in our offices in Cebu, or
On the previous project I worked on, I visited you guys quite a lot. But no, since the pandemic, we've just been having to Google Hangouts most of the time, which yes, it works. It's still fine, and we achieve everything. So I don't, but it's always nice to meet up occasionally and sort of talk face to face. But I certainly think not meeting up hasn't affected things too much. But looking forward to everyone getting back into the office a bit and being able to meet up.
and I have two last questions that I had, planned. If I feel like it's a bit redundant, but again, if you feel like adding some stuff on top of that, so is how would you say that the collaboration with Arcanis has impacted your business?
Yeah, so, I mean, I wouldn't be where we are today if Arcanys hadn't, got involved. So I really don't think we would be in this good position, this sort of strong position that we are now, if I hadn't have discussed it with Alan and planned it, and you guys getting involved. It would have gone much slower. As you said, we wouldn't have been able to invest in the sales and growing the business, and now we have a product that is very sellable and it's growing fast. So I sort of, yeah, as an exercise to think what would happen if I hadn't have met Arcanys, I don't think we would be in the situation. I don't think we would be half the way through our plans as we are now. So yeah, it was a very good meetup.
Cool. It's really nice to hear that. And so you also kind of said it already, but I just want to take another angle with the last question I have for you, which is like, could you have achieved the same results with in-house developers? And maybe the focus we could look into for that question is, you mentioned that you had done your stuff on WordPress initially, and so maybe you could talk here about your experience with, I mean, your own team initially, because I think you were managing your own team of developers, and then the transition to Arcanis. Yeah, if you could talk about this, yeah.
Yes, well, I mean, WordPress is not really programming. It's kind of plug and play, and you have all these. So one of our we do have a couple of technical people in house, but they're not really programmers. And we have a guy called Chahi who helped us develop the WordPress template. And yeah, that worked well because Chahi could kind of do it all on his own, just as a WordPress editor, put it all together and make it work. So then stepping up another level to then building an in-house team to rebuild that in our own language would have been a completely different thing. Shahi is just a standalone WordPress editor, skilled, but to do what we've done with Arcanys would just requires like a larger team with lots of different skills from front end to back end to database structure. So, and I wouldn't have been able to build. I mean, I could have built that team on my own, but I then would have been very dependent upon the team working together. And my experience is that unless you have a really senior person like Eric, it's very difficult to make those teams gel. And if your language and your communication isn't totally clear, you know, it's not the same as a conversation where you say, oh, maybe we do this. You've got to be totally precise in your thinking and your instructions. And if you're not, you're going to end up making mistakes that could cost you weeks and months. So your in-house team, they're very, very capable people, but they require guidance and they require very strict guidelines of what you should and shouldn't do. And if you have someone like me trying to run that team who's more of a business strategy thinker, you're going to end up making quite costly mistakes. So I knew Shahi wasn't experienced enough programmer to build a team, and I knew I just didn't want to go down that road because I've made a few mistakes building teams myself. So better to leave it to the experts and where you've got experienced people like Eric and the wider team at Arcanys.
Cool. Thank you. Well, for me, I'm done with the questions I wanted to ask you. Is there anything else you wanted to I don't know add or ask at this stage?
Yes, no, I mean, there's not much more to add. I mean, we're just a very happy client, and it's going as good as we could expect. And you know, there's many more things that we want to develop. So once we get the flower side, we're looking to take the concept into other industries. And yeah, I think we have a good foundation with Arcanys to grow the business and provide a solution for small businesses. Yeah, so no, we're very happy.
And we're happy too. I think with Alan, nothing makes us more happy than to see that we're able to help you, achieve, I mean, your goals and make a difference. And hear that because of our involvement, you were able to go faster than you thought you'd have been able to go just alone, right? So
Yeah,
thanks a lot for that.
no problem. Thank you. Yeah.